Mountain Stage with Kathy Mattea. That's on May 7th. And I just want to mention who's going to be on that show. Amy Ray Band.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Lone Bellow, Allison Brown Band, Tony Furtado, and The Villages. Hosting Mountain Stage, I guess the last couple of years is a fairly new thing for you. Of course, you've been on Mountain Stage many times.
Yes.
How is it? So you're a year in at least of being the host, and what can you tell us about Mountain Stage that you might not have known before you were host?
Well, I've always loved it. I kind of, the arc of my career is sort of the same arc as the arc of Mountain Stage. Mountain Stage started the year I signed my record deal in Nashville. Um, so I grew up with the show. I was on, I think within the first year, Tim and Molly were on, Tim O'Brien and Molly O'Brien were on the same show I was. It was my first show. And I mean, I can still picture us rehearsing an a cappella song in the basement of the Capitol Theater. And then I got to play on the show where they went to the NPR convention to go national to see if they could get stations to pick them up.
Yes.
So I feel like I got to walk along with Mountain Stage as my career progressed and Mountain Stage progressed. But there are a lot of things I've come to appreciate on a whole new level since I've been doing this. One is just Larry's vision, Larry Gross. Sometimes I'm standing there and I'm like, there was nothing. And now there is this 40-year-old radio show that everyone loves and people respect. It puts West Virginia culture, and not stereotypical West Virginia culture, actual West Virginia hospitality, front and center, both backstage and in its personality on the air. And so I really think that's important. I think it's been great for the state and for the culture. And I think live music is really important. And there are less and less opportunities for people to play live in any kind of media. And so I just think, I have to say, I have listened to more new music than I have in years. I've been gobsmacked many times, like by a song or a performance or an artist. Last time we did it, I was like, I'm just glad to know you exist in the world. There was this young bass player who was just playing bass and singing. And
Hmm.
you're like, I've never heard anybody do this before like this. And so it feels like a really important institution to me. And I'm happy to be part of like taking the baton and passing it on. So hopefully it can last longer than even all of us, and keep going for many years in the future.
Yes, I agree. 40 years. What an amazing thing. And yeah, I always tell people if you like music at all, you're going to go, and even if you don't know any of the acts, you're going to go, and you're going to be blown away by something.
Yeah.
And and um and if and if you're not a music lover, you probably become one by the end of one of these shows, and just pick any one of them. But you're right, it's a lot of times through the years, um I would just go to, I've played it many years, but and many times, but my wife and I would just go to a mountain stage to catch somebody, that we
Yeah.
dig, and we'll end up just getting blown away by somebody we've never heard of every single time. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. It's so wide ranging. There's 5 acts on every show,
Yeah.
and it can be anyone from Ray Wiley Hubbard or Bela Fleck to this kid from West Virginia who was on the last show, who, during COVID didn't get to jam. So he put a TikTok video up and he's got 1 million followers. And suddenly everyone and their uncle knows who he is. And he's just glad to be there. I mean, it's just, the word that comes to mind is wonder. Like, I just feel wonder about music. And I also think that it's really important for people who live in rural areas and don't necessarily get a lot of live music coming through their town to be able to sort of have that, on a podcast or on their radio in their house. It's just, it just, there was just this moment where I realized being asked to take over Larry's job for Mountain Stage, it checked all the boxes of the things I think are important in the world. And I said yes, and it's terrified me, and it's been a lot of work, and it's also just incredibly satisfying.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.